There was something about Tuesday nights that always left the Whitmore estate too quiet. Not a peaceful kind of quiet, but the eerie, soul-nudging kind. A silence that felt like it was hiding something. Charisse Whitmore sat on the edge of the sleek, dove-gray velvet couch, legs tucked under her, a silk robe loosely tied around her frame. The fireplace crackled low, untouched wine in her glass, and a wedding album open beside her. Frozen memories of a life she had once fought so hard to build. The photo on the current page, her and James Carlton 5 years ago. Their wedding in Tuscany. She wore Vera Wang. He wore her ambition. James had always been charming, dangerously so, but he didn't come from much. When she met him, he was bartending part-time, dreaming big, living small. She had been the investor, the strategist, the silent partner who signed the checks and taught him how to sign his name like it meant something. She had branded him into a millionaire. Her contacts built his networks. Her money funded his first startup. Even the name Carlton had come from her, her mother's maiden name, because it sounded wealthier. And now, 5 years later, the man she made was no longer hers. Her phone buzzed violently against the glass coffee table. Mabel Richardson, her cousin, her best friend, her voice of reason. Charisse wiped under her eyes quickly, pulling herself together before she answered. "Mabel?" she said. The voice on the other end was shaky, almost nervous. "Reese, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this." Her stomach turned. "Mabel, what's wrong?" A beat, then 3 words that caved her chest in. "It's James." "Veronica." Silence. Mabel continued, hurriedly, guiltily. "I saw them, just now, at the Grand Monarch Lounge. He was with her. They were holding hands. He kissed her. Reese, he kissed her like you didn't exist." Charisse blinked hard, staring blankly at the fireplace. "Veronica Sampson?" Her voice trembled. Mabel exhaled. "Yes, Veronica Sampson. The tall, seductive runway model with a waist that seemed sculpted and a face made for magazine covers. The same model who had worked their brand's product launch 2 years ago. The same woman who had complimented Charisse's diamond necklace and called her the luckiest woman alive. "Reese." Mabel's voice was soft now, unsure. "Please don't be alone right now." "I'm fine." Charisse lied. "I'm fine." She hung up. And then, slowly, she reached for the wedding album again. Her trembling fingers flipped through page after page. Her in lace. Him in a tux. Their first dance. The vows he wrote. "You are my safe place, my fire, and my future." Liar. She stared at the pictures for hours. The wine grew warm. Her body grew cold. At some point, tears found her, silent but endless. The clock ticked into the night. 12:15 a.m. Still no James. He had stopped coming home on time 4 months ago. First, he said it was late meetings. Then networking events. She stopped asking. Until now. The next morning came like a thief, dragging her out of sleep still curled on the couch, her neck stiff, her heart heavier. Her robe was wrinkled. Her eyes were swollen. Her dignity sat somewhere under her chest. But not today. Charisse rose from the couch and marched to the bathroom. She bathed in silence, steam fogging the mirrors as she washed last night's heartbreak from her skin. Then she opened her closet, not for comfort, but for power. She chose a crimson blouse that draped over her curves like confidence itself, paired with high-waisted slacks and a pair of 4-inch heels that echoed on the marble floors like thunder. Her makeup was light, but purposeful, a soft beat to disguise the ruin beneath. She spritzed her perfume, hers, not Veronica's, and just as she stepped into the hallway, the door opened. He walked in like nothing had happened. James Carlton, wearing a navy suit she picked out last month. His jaw freshly shaven, his smile casual. And that cologne. The new one, not the scent she gave him on their 3rd anniversary. This one was foreign, musky, intoxicating, the kind of scent worn by men with secrets. He leaned in to kiss her cheek. She didn't move. He didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't care. He walked into the kitchen, pulled a glass from the cabinet, and poured himself water like this was just another Wednesday. Charisse followed him in, her heels steady. Her heartbeat wasn't. "James," she said. He turned. She folded her arms. "We need to talk." He paused. The charm faded slightly, but he gestured to a stool. They sat at the island in silence for a moment. "I know about Veronica," she said. His expression didn't change. Not shock, not guilt, just stillness. "How long?" she asked. 5 months, he said quietly. Her breath hitched, but she didn't cry. "Not now. I didn't mean for it to happen," he added. "It just did. With my money under my roof, during the brand I helped you build?" She snapped. He ran a hand through his hair. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it, James?" He hesitated. "She makes me feel something I haven't felt in a long time," he said. "She makes me feel alive, like I can breathe." She blinked at him. The kitchen became silent, save for the hum of the fridge and the distant ticking of the wall clock. Charisse Whitmore sat tall on the velvet-padded stool, her hands folded neatly on the marble island. Across from her sat James Carlton, her husband of 5 years, and the man who had just admitted, in a flat voice, that he'd been seeing someone else for 5 months. Her eyes were dry, but her spirit throbbed beneath her skin. For a while, neither of them spoke. James ran his fingers through his hair again, that same nervous gesture he used when he was about to lie. Then he moved closer. He slid off the stool and circled around the counter to stand beside her. Slowly, almost tenderly, he reached for her hands. Charisse didn't pull away. Not yet. His palms were warm, too warm, her hands cold and still. "Charisse," he said softly, "you're overthinking this." She blinked slowly. "Overthinking? We're just friends. Me and Veronica. Nothing more." She gave a quiet, sarcastic scoff. "Friends?" "Yes," he said, his grip tightening slightly. "Just friends." He looked down at their hands, like this act of touch could somehow rewrite the truth. "You've always been the one I come home to, the one I share my life with. Don't let your mind run wild because of what Mabel thinks she saw." Her face didn't move. "She saw you kissing her, James." He hesitated, then forced a half-smile. "That's just Mabel being dramatic. Maybe I leaned in too close. Maybe she misread it. You know how people love to stir things." Charisse stared at him, at the man she once admired for his honesty and drive. Now she saw something else. A practiced charm, refined deflection. The kind of deceit that didn't come overnight. It came from months of repetition. "Reese," he said, using her nickname like a band-aid. "You've always been a little anxious. You care deeply, I get it. But don't ruin everything we have by getting paranoid." Her breath caught in her throat. Paranoid? Is that what he thought this was? 5 months of emotional distance. Lies. New cologne. A woman's perfume on his collar. Missed dinners. Late nights. And she was paranoid? Before she could speak, his phone rang. The name lit up on the screen, sharp and unmistakable. Veronica's. The silence grew louder. The ringtone echoed like a scream through the marble kitchen. He quickly snatched the phone off the counter and turned the screen down, but not before Charisse saw the photo attached to the contact. A sultry picture of Veronica blowing a kiss at the camera. James's jaw twitched. "It's just." "Answer it," Charisse said coolly, arms folding. He blinked. "What?" "Answer it," she repeated. "On speaker." James hesitated, gripping the phone like it might bite him. He forced a small laugh, trying to disarm the moment. "Charisse, don't do this. We've already talked about." "Put it on speaker." This time her voice had steel in it, the kind of tone that came not from jealousy, but justice. James stood frozen. The phone rang out. Voicemail. A moment of strained silence passed between them. "I'm going upstairs," Charisse finally said, rising from the stool. "When I come back down, I want to know whether I'm living with my husband or a stranger." And with that, she walked past him, graceful, poised, deadly calm. James stood there, still holding the phone like it might explode. Later that day, the sky had turned gray by late afternoon. Rain whispered against the windows of the Riverside Cafe where Charisse Whitmore sat across from her cousin, Mabel Richardson, in a quiet corner booth. Mabel reached across the table and placed a hand over Charisse's. "Reese, I'm sorry. I wish I was wrong. I really do." Charisse stirred her untouched chamomile tea, staring blankly into the cup. "I keep asking myself what I did wrong. Did I stop being enough for him?" Mabel leaned in, firm but kind. "Don't do that. Don't put his choices on your shoulders. I built everything for him, Mabel." Charisse whispered, voice raw. That house, his life, his reputation, even the Carlton name. And still, tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them away. You were his everything, Reese. He was the one who changed. Not you. They sat in silence, the kind that only true sisters could share, the kind that didn't rush grief. Later that evening, as the rain picked up and thunder rolled in the distance, Charisse sat on her bed, phone in hand. She typed a message. Hey James, I need a break from all of this. I won't be coming home for a while, till I'm sure what we're doing. She stared at it, reread it, then hit send. She waited. 5 minutes, 15, an hour. No reply. The next few days passed in a blur. Charisse moved into the guest wing of her family's beach house just outside the city. The same beach house she had once brought James to after his first business deal. Back when he used to say things like, I still can't believe you chose me. Now, the silence between them was louder than the waves. She scrolled through her phone again, checking her messages. Still nothing. Not even a where are you? Not a missed call. Not a single dot from a typing bubble. She put the phone down and pressed her palms to her eyes, biting back the ache. Later that night, as the fire crackled and the air turned colder, she sat in the lounge with her younger sister, Vanessa. I've been thinking, Charisse murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe he's just going through something. Maybe he's unsatisfied or stressed. Vanessa didn't interrupt. She just waited. I thought, maybe if I took him on a trip, somewhere quiet, or maybe just signed him a check for that tech fund he's been talking about. Give him something he wants. Maybe that would clear the air. Vanessa's lips parted in protest, but Charisse continued. Or maybe I'm just overthinking all of this. Maybe Mabel was wrong. Maybe she didn't see what she thought she saw. Vanessa didn't respond. Then suddenly, Mabel's voice from that cafe came back into Charisse's mind, fierce and protective. No, Charisse, absolutely not. You've given enough. You've given everything. If he's unhappy, that's on him. Stop trying to fix what he broke. Back in the present, Charisse sighed, hugging a throw pillow to her chest. I just thought he'd call. Vanessa placed a hand on her back. And the fact that he hasn't says everything. It was past midnight when Charisse found herself awake, lying on the guest bed with her phone resting against her chest. Out of habit, she opened Instagram. She scrolled mindlessly. Memes, baby photos, sponsored ads until she froze. There it was. Posted just an hour ago on a popular lifestyle influencer story. A dimly lit photo of a private club in the city. Loud music, velvet chairs, champagne bottles, and in the center of it, James Carlton, leaning back in a booth, smiling, relaxed, comfortable, not a care in the world. And on his lap, Veronica Sampson. Her arm around his shoulder, her lips almost on his ear, her dress barely covering her. The photo was tagged. #PowerCouple, #LateNights. Charisse stared at it for several long seconds. Her heart did not break all at once. It cracked slowly, quietly, like ice fracturing under pressure. He hadn't called. He hadn't replied. And now she saw why. He was never lost. He had just moved on. The morning after that photo, the beach house felt colder. Charisse Whitmore didn't sleep. Not truly. She lay in the same position for hours, curled on her side, eyes open, staring out at the rising tide beyond the glass doors. She hadn't told anyone yet. Not about the picture. Not about how it shattered something in her she couldn't quite name. Her phone buzzed several times. Messages from clients, a call from her assistant, a reminder about an upcoming foundation event she was meant to host. She silenced it all. Today, the world could spin without her. She went downstairs, brewed black coffee she wouldn't drink, and stared at the mug until the steam disappeared. Eventually, she opened Instagram one last time. She found the photo again, the one of James and Veronica. She stared at it, at his smile. That familiar, easy grin that used to be reserved for her. His arm wasn't around Veronica, but the intimacy between them was undeniable. His body leaned into her like it belonged there. She clicked the photo, paused, and then, without hesitation, deleted her account. Just like that, Charisse Whitmore vanished from the digital world. By noon, she was gone too, bags packed, a driver waiting. She didn't tell Mabel or Vanessa where she was going. Just left a note. I need time. Please don't try to find me. Love, Reese. 3 hours outside the city. Charisse checked into a secluded wellness retreat, the kind of place where CEOs went to pretend they were healing, and old money widows went to cry over wine and grief. But for her, it was silence she needed. Space. The staff was discreet. They recognized her. How could they not? Charisse Whitmore was in real estate and fashion magazines, on boards of hospitals and schools. Her face was unforgettable, but they said nothing. They simply gave her the best room overlooking the mountains, and a key. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe. Until day 5. That morning, she woke up dizzy. By afternoon, she had thrown up twice. First, she thought it was stress, or exhaustion, or maybe that vintage rose from 2 nights ago had finally caught up with her. But then her hands began to shake. Her back ached in waves. Her vision blurred slightly as she reached for her robe. Concerned, the retreat nurse insisted on a checkup at a nearby private clinic. Discreet, no records linked to her main name. Charisse agreed reluctantly. The doctor was gentle, older, the type that had seen everything, and still approached every patient like they were a mystery worth solving. They did the standard vitals, then blood tests, and then a scan. Charisse lay back on the examination table, heart thumping in her chest as the cold gel touched her abdomen. "I'm not sick, right?" she whispered. The doctor didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned the monitor toward her and smiled, soft and knowing. "What you are is pregnant, Mrs. Whitmore." Charisse blinked. Her breath caught. "What? Pregnant? Your hormone levels confirm it. Judging by the scan, you're somewhere around 8 to 9 weeks. Her hand covered her mouth. The world blurred around her. She was pregnant. With James' baby. Her mind swirled. What timing? What irony? What cruel, poetic symmetry? And then the doctor paused again. Her brow furrowed slightly. Charisse sat up, alarmed. "What is it?" She pointed at the screen. "There's more. More." She gave a gentle chuckle. "Yes, more heartbeats." She adjusted the probe, zoomed in, turned the volume up. Lubed up, lubed up. The sound was unmistakable, multiplied. She turned back to her, eyes twinkling. "Mrs. Whitmore, there are 4 heartbeats." The room fell silent. Charisse stared at the screen in shock. Her hand slowly slid to her belly. The doctor kept talking, something about next steps, nutrition, additional tests, but his words faded. All she could hear were the echoes of those heartbeats. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. That night, back in her room, Charisse stood by the window, robe wrapped around her tightly. She held a mug of warm milk, untouched. Her other hand rested over her stomach. For lives. She let the tears fall freely this time. Not just for the betrayal or the pain, but for what had now been given to her. Not from James, but from God. For heartbeats inside her. Not symbols of brokenness, but proof she had something left to live for. The nights had become unbearable. It had been over a month and 2 weeks since Charisse Whitmore last heard a word from her husband. No text, no call, not even a single empty "Are you okay?" Despite the fact that she had disappeared from everyone's radar, she knew James was alive. She had seen the occasional tabloid photo, the nightclub appearances, the shiny new car he was test driving. But not once had he thought to ask where the woman who gave him everything had gone. And now, here she was, 6 weeks into a pregnancy that should have brought joy, and all she felt was fear. Some nights, she would sit upright at 3 a.m., hand clutching her lower belly, wondering, what if I'm not strong enough for this? What if I can't do this alone? What if he wasn't the villain? What if I just wasn't enough? And then the guilt would follow. Not guilt for leaving, but guilt for still missing him. There were nights when she wept quietly into her pillow, not out of weakness, but from the grief of carrying life inside her, alone, without the man she once believed was her forever. Her cousin Mabel had offered to visit. Vanessa called daily, but Charisse couldn't talk. She didn't want pity, or lectures, or soft encouragement. She wanted James. Even after everything, her heart, bruised and dragging, still longed for him, for his laugh, his scent, the way he used to rest his chin on her shoulder when she cooked, the way he used to kiss her temple before important meetings. But the version of James she missed no longer existed. The next morning, she woke up and made a decision. She needed to go home, not for James, for herself. She needed to see the life she'd left behind. She needed to touch the walls, smell the air, remember who she was before betrayal tried to redefine her. So she dressed in something simple but elegant. A cream knit dress that hugged her bump gently and a soft trench coat to keep off the breeze. Her hair was tied in a low bun, minimal makeup, just enough to feel like her again. She got into her new Model G-Wagon, one hand instinctively cradling her belly as she drove through the quiet hills leading to their estate. The house stood there, still tall, still pristine, still hers. She wasn't expecting anyone to be home. After all, James was never one to return before midnight. And if he was staying elsewhere, She doubted he remembered where the key even was. She stepped out of the car slowly, heels clicking on the driveway. Her breath caught slightly as she looked at the front entrance. Still hers. She placed her hand on the fingerprint scanner, punched in the code, and the door clicked open. The scent of the house was still familiar. Clean, slightly floral. She walked in slowly, heart pounding harder than she wanted to admit. Her first stop was the fridge. She opened it just to check. Water bottles nearly half gone. Leftover takeout containers she never ordered. A red velvet cupcake box from Lux Bakery, her favorite spot. But she hadn't bought it. She stared at it. Someone had been here. Still, she didn't let her thoughts wander too far. Maybe James had just come back once or twice. Maybe he needed something. Maybe. She took a glass of water and sat on the couch. Felt surreal being there again. Like walking into a dream she'd forgotten she owned. After a few minutes, she stood. She needed to check the master bedroom and the other areas in the house. She climbed the stairs slowly, her hand tracing the polished wood of the railing, her heels silent on the carpeted floor. She paused at the door, fingers trembling. She pressed the knob and slowly pushed it open. And what she saw, she would never forget. There, in the same silk sheets she had bought on their honeymoon trip to Milan, were James Carlton and Veronica Sampson. Half naked, shirt button undone, laughing, alive in a world that had erased her. Veronica's long legs stretched across her bed. James's shirt was open, his mouth curled into a lazy grin, until he saw her, until they both saw her. The entire room froze. The smile died on his lips. Veronica gasped, clutching at the sheet. James's eyes widened, his mouth moving but no words coming out. And Charisse, she dropped to her knees, hand flying to her mouth. A sound escaped her lips, part sob, part gasp, part reality cracking open. Her body trembled, not just from the visual betrayal, but from the ache in her chest, the unbearable ache of confirmation. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't overthinking. This wasn't just friends. This was her husband, inside her house, in her bed with the very woman the world had whispered about for months. The pain was so sharp, so sudden, she thought she might black out. Her other hand instinctively covered her belly. The babies. She was carrying life while they were living like she was already gone. Charisse. James began, panicked now, rising, fumbling with the sheet. But Charisse didn't stay to hear the lie. The walls were spinning. Charisse didn't know how she made it down the stairs. She didn't remember how her feet moved or how she didn't slip on her tears. Her throat was dry. Her eyes burned. And her belly felt like it was twisting inside her. She was barely breathing. She reached into her handbag with trembling fingers and speed-dialed one name. Mabel. Her voice cracked through the phone like broken glass. Come get me please, May. I can't stay here. Mabel, I can't see clearly. Please. Mabel Richardson had never heard her cousin like this. She didn't ask questions. She didn't waste a second. Within 15 minutes, Mabel's matte black Audi SUV screeched into the Carlton Estates driveway. But she wasn't alone. Donald Whitmore, Charisse's twin brother, was beside her, and he had a terrible feeling in his chest. Something's wrong, he said. Something's really wrong. They both rushed to the front entrance just in time to see a scene that made Donald's blood boil. James Carlton, half-dressed, disheveled, and fake teary-eyed, kneeling before Charisse in the living room, mumbling sorry after sorry, trying to reach for her hands as she cried like her soul had been torn apart. Charisse, baby, I didn't mean for you to see that like that. I swear, I was going to tell you. Please, just breathe. Don't cry like this. But before James could finish the sentence, Donald charged. With fire in his eyes and fury in his fists, he grabbed James by the collar and swung. First punch, square in the cheek. James stumbled. Second punch. Across the jaw, James hit the floor. Don't touch my sister. Donald roared, his chest heaving. Mabel, meanwhile, had already rushed to Charisse, who was now on her knees, shaking violently. Her breathing was erratic. Her skin was pale. Charisse? Hey, sweetie. Look at me. Look at me, just breathe. Okay. One breath in, come on. But Charisse could barely hold her weight anymore. She tried to stand with Mabel's help, her knees weak and hands trembling. But the moment she took a step, she collapsed. Her body went limp. Mabel caught her halfway down, but it wasn't enough. Charisse! She screamed. Donald's rage vanished in an instant. He shoved James backward, hard, and rushed to his sister's side. James tried to move forward, panic in his voice. Is she okay? Let me. But Donald's arm blocked him like a wall of stone. Touch her and I'll break your face. Mabel's voice cracked. We have to get her to the hospital. Now. Without waiting, Donald lifted Charisse into his arms, holding her like glass. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her eyes fluttered faintly. She was whispering something under her breath. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. He swallowed the lump in his throat. Hold on, sis. I've got you. As they made their way to the door, James staggered behind, shirt barely buttoned, voice shaking with confusion. Donald, Mabel, please, just let me explain. I didn't. Mabel didn't even turn around. Stay where you are, James. You already explained enough. With that, the three of them walked out, leaving James Carlton in the ruins of his own lies, half-dressed, bleeding, and suddenly very alone. The beeping of the hospital monitor was the only sound in the room. It echoed like a reminder that Charisse Carlton, once the quiet, graceful socialite, had survived what many women wouldn't dare live through. Her eyes blinked open slowly. The room was dim, sterile, yet warm, filled with faces. Familiar faces, loving faces, weary faces. Her grandmother was the first to move. Baby girl. The fragile old woman didn't wait for permission. Despite her stiff knees, she hurried across the hospital room and leaned over the bed, wrapping her trembling arms around Charisse's shoulders. My baby girl. My heart. Oh, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you for sparing her. Charisse slowly lifted her hand, resting it over her grandmother's back. Tears fell freely again, but this time they were met with warmth, not betrayal. Just a few steps away, her mother stood paralyzed. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she couldn't walk forward. She leaned into her husband, Charisse's father, who held her tight to his chest, stroking her back. I told her James was a demon in a designer suit, her mother mumbled. I told her. Mr. Whitmore said nothing. His jaw was clenched so tight his temple throbbed. Donald stood near the window, arms folded, still in the shirt he wore when he punched James Carlton in the face. He hadn't said much since they got here, but he hadn't left her side for a second. After the room settled and the soft sobs quieted, Charisse spoke. Her voice was firm, clear, no trace of hesitation. I'm filing for divorce. The room froze. Mabel gently sat on the edge of the bed, watching her cousin closely. Are you sure? She asked softly. Charisse nodded. I will not remain married to a man who looked me in the eye and lied, while his mistress wore my robe in my bed, she whispered. Even for the sake of my babies. She looked down at her belly, resting a hand over it tenderly. I'm not doing this anymore. A beat passed. Then Vanessa, Charisse's younger sister, spoke up from a corner of the room, hesitant. But what if he finds out someday that you're pregnant? What if he comes back and tries to take the babies from you? The temperature in the room changed immediately. Without blinking, Donald turned. Eyes dark, voice low but sharp like a blade. He'll have to go through me. Silence. Then, surprisingly, the grandmother slowly straightened her back and added, and me too. Everyone turned. The matriarch, barely pushing 5 feet, looked at them all with steel in her eyes. Let him come. Let him try. This family doesn't lose its children. Not to a man who sold his honor for hips and lipstick. Charisse's father nodded. I'll get our best lawyers on standby, he said. This divorce will go through quiet and fast. Her mother, finally moving closer, cupped Charisse's cheek. You're not alone, Charisse. We raised you to love with everything in you. But now it's time to protect what's yours. Charisse's lips trembled. She bit down to stop the tears, but one escaped anyway. Then she nodded, almost to herself. I don't know what the future holds, but I know. I'll never let James Carlton hurt me or my children again. Donald stepped forward and hugged her as she rested head on his shoulder. Time had slowed. For the outside world, Charisse Whitmore Carlton had disappeared. No press appearances, no interviews, no brand deals, no red carpets. It was as if she had been swallowed whole by heartbreak, and maybe she had. But behind the mansion gates of her childhood home, a quiet transformation was taking place. She was growing in pain, in wisdom, in power, and in her belly. Support comes in flesh and blood. Her family had not left her side. Donald had practically moved back in. He took her to every hospital appointment, waited in the hallway when she wanted privacy, bought her prenatal vitamins in bulk, rubbed her feet when she was too tired to stand, and yelled at any nurse who didn't treat her like the queen he knew she was. You're my twin. We came into the world together. If you hurt, I hurt. He told her one morning, handing her a cup of ginger tea. Charisse chuckled lightly, her hand resting over her round belly. "I feel bad making you run around like this." "Don't," he said, ruffling her curls. "You would do same for me too." Her grandmother, ever elegant and ever fierce, made sure Charisse ate on time, slept enough, and laughed at least once a day. "I don't care if I have to dance like an old fool in the hallway. You will smile, my darling," she'd say, shaking her cane like a prop. Even their mother, once cold in expressions, had softened. She would brush Charisse's hair while humming old lullabies, and sometimes lay beside her during thunderstorms, just to hold her hand. The secret that stayed hidden. It was a miracle, truly, how they had managed to keep it from the press. No one in the media knew Charisse was expecting. Every hospital visit was under a private name. Every baby shopping was done online or by Mabel or Donald. Her social media had been dormant for months, except the occasional res-hair of a charity project from her team. "The world doesn't deserve to see you right now," Mabel had said. "Let them gossip. Let them assume. But you, Charisse, you're busy blooming." Meanwhile, across town, James Carlton was still in the spotlight. His hand was now publicly glued to Veronica Sampson, the model who had stirred it all. Photos of them at fashion weeks, nightclubs, gala dinners. The media swooned. Power couple, they called them. But behind closed doors, things weren't as pretty. James was distracted. He checked his phone more often than before, looked out windows too long, and sometimes at night, Veronica would catch him staring at their bedroom wall, like he had forgotten where he was. "She's not thinking about you," Veronica whispered one night, curling up behind him. "She's gone." James didn't respond. "You'll never regret choosing me," she purred in his ear. "You were stuck with a woman who couldn't even give you kids in 5 years. A rich, saucy brat who looked good on paper but gave you nothing." James turned, slowly. Veronica smirked, sliding her hand down his chest. "I'm your future, not that barren little ornament." The next morning, James signed the divorce papers. No fight, no delay, just a single signature at the bottom of the document he once vowed he'd never need. Back at the Whitmore estate, that same morning, Charisse sat in the garden. She had just finished reading through some psalms for her morning prayers. The wind was cool. Her bump rose proudly under her soft cashmere robe. Her skin glowed effortlessly, despite the ache in her lower back. Donald stepped outside with a folder in his hand. He looked at her gently. "It's done," he said. He signed. Charisse blinked once, lips parted slightly. She let out a long breath, not a sigh of pain, but of peace. "Okay," she said softly, looking out at the flowers. "Now I can breathe again." She reached for her tea. As she sipped, her eyes sparkled slightly. Not with tears this time, but something new, a quiet fire. Because the world thought Charisse Carlton had been tossed aside. But the truth? She was preparing to rise, with 4 crowns in her arms. 3 years later, the James Carlton's name had faded from Charisse's soul. She was Charisse Whitmore again, and proudly so. Her skin glowed more than it ever had. Her laughter had returned, and in the heart of her family estate stood 4 tiny thrones. 3 boys and 1 radiant girl, all born under the same breath. The miracle that proved God wasn't done with her. Their names? Elian, Zakkai, Shemaiah, and her little Rose, Lael. She often said she didn't just give birth to children. She gave birth to reasons to live again. The Whitmore legacy grows. Charisse had returned to business, slowly at first, then with full force. Her fashion line was now sold in 5 countries. Her skincare brand had recently launched a Mother's Grace collection, and though the world still hadn't seen the faces of her babies, they were already fashion royalty in waiting. But more than fame, she had peace. Every morning was filled with small feet running across marble floors, sticky kisses, and Donald dragging one of the twins away from putting toy cars in the toilet. "Elian, I swear to God, you're gonna flood this house." "He gets it from you," Charisse would laugh. Donald had taken to father-uncle duties like a pro. He often joked that no woman could handle his schedule anymore. "I already have 4 kids under 5, thank you very much." And Mabel? She was now living just 5 blocks away, always available with wipes, extra pacifiers, and unsolicited advice about toddler tantrums. Charisse never lacked. Across the city, in a penthouse lined with glass, Veronica Sampson stirred awake. Her forehead was clammy, her stomach uneasy. She groaned and sat up slowly, reaching for the bedside drawer. "Again?" James asked, walking out of the bathroom, towel slung around his waist. "It's the 3rd time this week," she muttered. He crossed the room, sat beside her, and placed a hand on her back. "Let's go to the hospital, just to be sure." Later that day at noon, The doctor walked in, brows raised slightly as he looked down at the chart. Congratulations. You're around 4 weeks pregnant. Veronica blinked. What? James shot up from his chair. Are you sure? Yes, 100%. Healthy levels too. You're going to be parents. For a moment, Veronica sat frozen. But James? He was already standing, his hands on his head, pacing, laughing, then turning to her. We're having a baby, he whispered like a child on Christmas. A real one. We're going to have a family. He reached for her hands and lifted her gently, pulling her into a swing, not caring that they were in a white hospital corridor. Veronica tried to smile, but her lips barely curled. Back at home. Later that evening, after the noise had died down and they were back in the penthouse, James entered the room holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. She sat on their bed, hands resting over her flat stomach, staring at the wall, not smiling. He came, excited and slightly breathless. Still can't believe it, she said. Believe it, babe. It's happening, he replied, sitting beside her. She didn't respond. James paused, then dropped to his knees, taking her hand into his. Hey, why is my queen not happy? Veronica looked at him slowly. Her voice was calm, but fragile. We're not even married, James, and now I'm pregnant. What would people say? He looked stunned for a moment, but then smirked, brushing her cheek. They'll say what they always say. Whatever they want, let them. We're building a future, a new start. But Veronica didn't smile back. Something in her spirit trembled, a feeling she couldn't explain. Then suddenly he turned and looked her in the eyes. Let's get married. Not next year. Soon. She blinked, surprised. You're serious? Dead serious. Not just some quiet court wedding either. I'm talking about a ceremony that will shake this whole country. Fireworks, black tie, all white, a list. Let's give the media something they'll talk about for the next decade. Veronica's eyes lit up like fireworks. For once, she wasn't the side piece or the shadow. She was going to be the one, the bride, the wife. James, she whispered, half laughing in disbelief. You really mean it? Of course I do. You're carrying my child. You've been with me when things got ugly. You deserve the world. Let's do this. Veronica leaned into him, arms wrapping around his neck. Her face shone with excitement. Then let's make it a wedding the world will never forget. It had been a few peaceful days since the Quadruplets' 4th birthday. No fanfare, no media coverage, no designer cakes for show. Just joy, just family. In the warm kitchen, sun pouring in through the tall windows, Charisse stood by the sink, sleeves gently rolled up, hands in warm dishwater as she washed a few dishes from breakfast. Her silky brown dress hugged her gently, and her natural curls were wrapped in a soft scarf. Behind her in the living room, the sound of soft giggles came from the children watching cartoons. Donald was lying lazily across the couch, his arm hanging off the side, and their grandmother was seated in her favorite rocking chair humming a hymn as she knit. Peace, at last, until Reese. Vanessa appeared at the kitchen entrance, face pale, holding her phone tight in both hands. Charisse glanced over her shoulder casually. What's wrong? You need to see this, Vanessa said, voice shaky. Charisse dried her hands and took the phone. The screen was open to a social media post. One of the biggest gossip blogs had posted breaking news. Exclusive. Billionaire mogul James Carlton to wed international model Veronica Sampson in a luxury Cape Town ceremony this weekend. Sources say the dress is Dior, the venue's private, and the couple is going all out. This isn't just a wedding. It's a statement. Charisse stared at the post for a long moment. Her expression didn't flicker. Instead, she gave a soft chuckle, handed the phone back to Vanessa and simply said, well, good for them. Then she turned back to the sink, picked up another plate, and resumed washing, humming a gentle melody under her breath. Vanessa blinked in disbelief, but she didn't stop there. She stormed into the living room, phone still in hand. Donald, Grandma, you need to see this. She handed the phone to Donald, who lazily took it and began to read. His eyes sharpened instantly. They're getting married? After all that? The grandmother raised a brow. Let me see. She adjusted her glasses and looked at the post, then slowly shook her head, lips pursed tightly. He truly has no shame. Just then, Kimberly, Charisse's younger cousin, strolled past holding one of the twins in her arms. Ugh, guys, come on, she muttered, not even glancing up. Just let them be. They're not worth this energy. Donald's head snapped up. Let them be. He sat upright now. After everything that jerk did to our sister? After watching her cry herself to sleep, wondering what she did wrong. While he played house with that woman, he stood up, passion burning in his chest. Nah, this can't go quietly. Kimberly raised an eyebrow. What are you saying? Donald looked toward the kitchen, where Charisse continued humming and rinsing plates. She's going to that wedding. What? And not just her. He smirked. The kids are going too. Their grandmother smiled slowly. Now that is the kind of grace he'll never recover from. Vanessa grinned wide. Oh, this is going to break the internet. Donald crossed his arms. Let him see what he gave up. Not through revenge. Not through drama. But through presence. You think she'll agree? Kimberly asked. She doesn't need to, Donald said, glancing toward the kitchen. She already knows. Back in the kitchen. As if on cue, Charisse turned off the tap, wiped her hands again, and walked into the room where the three of them stood, all looking at her. I heard everything, she said with a soft smile. And if we're doing this, we do it with class. No press, she added. No warning. Just entrance. Vanessa squealed. Their grandmother placed a proud hand on Charisse's cheek. That boy forgot who he married. Let's remind him. Donald cracked his knuckles. This is going to be fun. And just like that, Operation Spotlight Reclaim was underway. The golden sun gleamed over the extravagant floral archway set atop Carlton Hills estate, a location James had spared no cost to secure for the so-called wedding of the year. Reporters, influencers, and socialites filled rows of gold-trimmed chairs beneath crystal-draped canopies. Paparazzi snapped away at the carefully curated scene, waiting for the bride to descend the marbled aisle. James Carlton stood at the altar in a designer tux, flashing cameras. Beside him Veronica Sampson, wrapped in a gown that reportedly cost more than some estates. The place shimmered with wealth, but the air was thin with suspense. Then suddenly, a low thunder rumbled from above. Heads turned. Guests looked up. A sleek black and gold helicopter sliced through the clouds like a goddess descending from the heavens. The noise made the string quartet freeze mid-note. The pilot lowered the chopper right into the estate's grand lawn. The crowd scattering, phones raised, gasps rising like smoke. The door swung open, and Charisse Whitmore stepped out in a radiant white ensemble, not bridal but commanding. A tailored silk jumpsuit hugged her elegant figure, her neckline adorned with diamonds that shimmered even under the sun. Her heels clicked with grace. Her makeup, flawless. Skin, like milk and honey. Hair, flowing like a queen who came to reclaim her crown. Behind her, four children followed in matching designer fits. 3 boys and a little girl with curly locks and hazel eyes so piercing they made grown men freeze. The boys wore mini tuxes. The girl, a baby couture dress and pearl headband. And suddenly the whispers began. Those kids. They look just like James Carlton. Wait. Is that Charisse Whitmore Carlton? Even the security team, mouths agape, stepped aside. They wouldn't stop her. No one could. It was as if royalty had arrived. Cameras erupted. Flash after flash. Reporters shoved to get the best angle. Charisse walked straight through the aisle. No RSVP, no hesitation. 2 bodyguards walked beside her, shielding the children from the chaos. The moment was too big for reality. James was speechless. Veronica gripped his arm in horror, her knuckles pale. Charisse walked up, regal as ever, a subtle smirk on her face. Her voice soft, but it shook the earth. Leaving you, she began, looking James dead in the eyes, was the best decision I never got to make, because you made it for me. But God turned your betrayal into my coronation. She turned slightly, giving a subtle nod to her kids. You left me for a fantasy, and God, He gave me the realest treasures, my children, my crown, my joy. Quadruplets, James, for of them. James, frozen, let go of Veronica's hand. His lips trembled. Are they mine? Charisse, her voice cut like velvet over glass. They were never yours to begin with, and they never will be, not in this life or the next. The crowd gasped. She turned to leave but paused, pulled out a wad of crisp $100 bills and flung them high into the air, bills raining down like confetti. So long, ex-husband. With that, she kissed each child, held her little girl's hand, and climbed back into the helicopter. Engines roared, and in one swift rise into the sky, she vanished, leaving a stunned silence. Then it happened. Veronica, lifting her designer train, stormed toward James. Her eyes brimmed with betrayal and rage. Slap. How dare you run to her in the middle of our wedding? You embarrassed me. In front of the whole country. She took a breath, voice shaking. This wedding. That's over, James. I'm done with you. With this. All of it. Gasps filled the air again. James stood alone, shattered, surrounded by photographers capturing the most humiliating moment of his life. The headlines would write themselves before sunset. The ex-wife storms wedding in luxury chopper. Billionaire mogul James Carlton's wedding ends in disaster. Bride to be abandoned at the altar. Charisse had come. She saw. She conquered. The air was dry with shame as James Carlton drove himself home, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other still trembling from the weight of the wedding that never was. No guards, no assistants, no press, just him. He pushed open the mahogany door of the villa he once called his sanctuary with Veronica, now eerily silent. But something was off. Bags, designer suitcases stacked near the door. Upstairs, heels clacked against marble. Closet doors opened, slammed, and rustled. Veronica. He raced up the stairs. Veronica, no, please let's talk. Don't do this. She turned to him sharply. Mascara streaked across her face, lips trembling with rage. Talk? She scoffed. You want to talk now? She shoved her phone into his chest with a force that cracked through his soul. On the screen, headline, Runaway Groom? Billionaire James Carlton ditches bride for ex-wife at wedding spectacle. Veronica Sampson left in tears as Carlton chases past flame. The entire country was reading, laughing, speculating. She had become a national meme. You humiliated me in front of everyone, she screamed, voice trembling. You didn't even hesitate, James. You left me standing there. I just wanted to know if the kids were mine, James stammered, reaching for her hand. I needed to know the truth. She jerked back. Is that what you're telling yourself to sleep tonight? That this was about the kids? That she didn't just humiliate you in front of the whole world? She dragged another suitcase to the stairs. You didn't go after her for closure, James. You went after her because you still love her. James dropped to the edge of the bed, burying his face in his palms. Everything was spiraling. The empire he built on image and control, now a circus tent. Veronica, please, he whispered. But Veronica had hardened. No, I'm done. I'll handle my PR, clean up my image, but I'm done fixing your messes. She stormed past him with her last suitcase. But before she hit the door, she paused and looked back over her shoulder. I should have known. You never stopped looking back. And now, you're just a man with nothing left but headlines and regrets. Slam. The door echoed. And for the first time in years, James was truly alone. He sat in the silence, phone in hand, the screen still glowing. Photos of Charisse and the children flooded every platform. Bold headlines, viral clips of dollar bills raining, the kids' uncanny resemblance to him, and the one phrase playing like a broken record. They were never yours to begin with, and they never will be, not in this life or the next. He leaned back, eyes closed, a single tear sliding down his face. He had everything, and he lost it all. The world hadn't seen anything like it. Charisse Carlton, once a ghost of the tabloids, had returned in a blaze of glory. Her unannounced appearance at her ex-husband's wedding had not only shut the event down, but also become the most talked-about moment of the year. News outlets across the country were scrambling for answers. Who are the children? Are they James Carlton's? Why did Charisse vanish for so long? But no one could get close. Not a single shot of the children had surfaced after the wedding. No interviews, no statements, no photos beyond that dramatic entrance. Charisse vanished again, this time on her own terms. Inside the tall silver gates of her private family estate, she sat in a sunlit room surrounded by her 4 children. Her daughter braided her hair while the boys playfully tossed building blocks around the plush white rug. It was peace, until her phone rang again. Her assistant, Nina, sighed, checking the caller ID. It's EBN this time. That's the 5th offer today. Charisse calmly sipped her tea and said, Reject it, all of them. I don't want any of them near my children. But they're offering millions for just a short interview. Even international media wants a piece of this. Charisse gently lifted her daughter off her lap, stood up, and walked to the floor-length window. My babies are not a show. They're not his redemption arc. They're mine. Let the world speculate. Nina nodded, deeply admiring the quiet strength in her boss's tone. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, James Carlton was a man unraveling. His name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Investors were pulling back. His reputation was tanking. Paparazzi stalked him day and night. Worse, his curiosity was turning into obsession. He watched the viral wedding clips repeatedly. One of the boys, the second twin, had his walk, his stare, his brows. James began digging through old photos, comparing timelines, dates, when Charisse left, when she disappeared, when she changed her number, when Mabel stopped answering his calls. It all made sense. Are they mine? He muttered under his breath again. He called Veronica, no response. She had gone completely silent. His own silence had been costly. That evening, his lawyer walked into his office. There's something you should see. James turned the screen toward him. Charisse declines global interview offers to protect her children. No statement, no PR spin. My children are not pawns. Charisse Carlton. The lawyer cleared his throat. If you believe there's a chance those children are yours, and you want to claim paternity, James cut him off. I don't want the courts. I want the truth. From her. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand over his face. Get me an invitation to her next public appearance. Anything. I want to see her. It was a crisp Saturday evening, the city buzzing with wealth and whispers. Tonight's event, the Women of Power and Philanthropy Awards Gala, an invite-only affair, high security, the elite of the elite, and sitting at the center table, dressed in a custom champagne gold gown with crystal embroidery, was Charisse Carlton. Her skin glowed like it had been kissed by royalty itself. Her poise was unmatched, and every time she smiled, cameras clicked like thunder. She wasn't just present. She owned the night. Her children weren't with her. They were safely at home with Donald and their grandmother. Charisse made sure of that. This was her space, her stage, and no shadow from the past was going to dim it. Or so she thought, until, from the back entrance, James Carlton arrived. Uninvited, wearing a black tux, he moved through the crowd, ignoring the murmurs. Is that James? Did he come here? Because of her? After that wedding disaster? Charisse was midway through a conversation with the Minister of Culture when she saw him. Standing in the distance, watching her, she didn't flinch. Instead, she gently excused herself, picked up her glass of wine, and walked to the VIP balcony. Her assistant, Nina, followed behind, tense. You want me to alert security? Charisse sipped, her gaze never breaking from the skyline. No, she said coolly. He wants a scene. Let's not give him one. But James didn't wait. He followed, cornered her by the balcony, trying to make it look casual for the cameras. Charisse, I need to hear the truth from you. The kids. Were you pregnant before our divorce? Why didn't you ever say something, Charisse? She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. Her gown shimmered like molten light. Really? James. She laughed, softly. How could I ever have told you? When you tossed me out like I didn't matter. You didn't even call. Not even a single text message, and you dare ask why I never said a thing. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I know they're mine. The boys. The girl. They look like me, I see my face in them. I'm not stupid, Charisse. But you were careless. She snapped back, suddenly ice. And when I needed you, you chose her. You don't get to claim what you abandoned. But I'm trying to fix it now, if you just give me a chance. Fix. She raised a brow. You married my mistake, James. I gave birth to my miracle. The air between them tightened. Photographers were catching glimpses now, and the hush in the crowd was thick. Just tell me, are they mine? Please, James asked, his voice breaking, desperate. Charisse stepped forward, eyes narrowed, whispering just enough for him to hear. They belong to the God who gave them to me, the family who loves them, and a mother who fought through pain to protect them. You're just a closed chapter in their story. She smiled sweetly and walked past him without waiting for a reply, her heels clicking like a royal decree. The cameras followed. The applause erupted. The media crowned her queen of the night. James? He stood frozen by the rail, watching her walk away again. But this time with no regrets. The sun had barely risen, yet the world was already wide awake. All eyes glued to Channel 8, the country's leading morning show. The Real Side with host Bella Hart. Today's special guest? None other than James Carlton, now infamous for his abandoned wedding and a stormy past with the powerful Charisse Whitmore Carlton, was finally ready to speak. The stage was tastefully lit. James wore a dark navy suit, no tie. His eyes were sunken, his voice raw. I know I've lost a lot, he began, and I deserve most of it. But I want to say this not just to the public, but to Charisse. Everyone watching held their breath. I hurt you, I know. I promised us forever, but I failed. He continued, his voice cracking. You built me. You loved me. You believed in me even when I didn't deserve it. And I walked away. I got greedy. I let infidelity get the better part of me. I broke our vows. I buried your worth under my pride. Bella leaned in, visibly moved. So, what are you saying today, James? He turned toward the camera. I'm saying I'm sorry. Charisse, I just want you to know. I see now what I threw away. You didn't just survive without me, you thrived. And I'm proud of the woman you've become. And our kids. I meant your kids. His voice dropped to a whisper. Whether I'm allowed in or not, I really just want to say I'm sorry. For not being there. For not being the father I ought to have been. The studio fell silent. He exhaled deeply, tears quietly streaming down his face. Meanwhile, at her private residence, Charisse sat cross-legged in her reading room, her face unreadable as she watched the interview on her mounted TV. A warm cup of tea rested untouched beside her. Her grandmother was knitting by the window. Donald was feeding the kids their cereal. Mabel came into the room, cautiously. You watching it? Charisse nodded slowly, eyes on the screen, silent. Mabel sat beside her. He sounded sincere. He is, Charisse said quietly. Mabel blinked. So you forgive him? Charisse took a long breath. Her voice calm, steady. I already did. A long time ago. Not for his sake. But mine. God helped me let it go. But I'm not going to tell him that. Because if I do, she turned, locking eyes with her cousin. He'll start imagining there's still a place for him here. And there's not. That space has been filled with peace. Just then, Donald stepped in. Exactly, he said flatly. Let him cry on camera. That's his therapy. Ours was a long time ago. In prayer, in pain, and in rebuilding. Let's not go backwards. Her grandmother nodded, never pausing from her knitting. Forgiveness isn't an open door, she said softly. Sometimes it's just a light you leave behind while walking away. Charisse gave a small smile, lifted her tea. Well, God bless him. But we're good here. And just like that, she changed the channel to cartoons for the kids. The mood in the house lightened. Laughter filled the air again. The past was acknowledged. But the future remained protected. Don't leave just yet. Subscribe to our channel for more heart-melting modern dramas. Love stories built on depth and faith. And characters you'll never forget. Click that bell icon too, so you never miss a new chapter in our world of love, laughter, and grace. Let's keep writing these beautiful stories together.